All right, we're live. Hello, 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 Pink House. We have a very special guest with us today. This is Cindy Marie Ferguson, and we are excited to hear Cindy tell us a little bit about her story and some of the entrepreneurial things, projects she's got going on. And she was a caregiver in her family, and she might touch base on that. But we are so happy to have Cindy with us. And in the interest of full disclosure, I met Cindy some time ago through an entrepreneurial process that we were going through together. And it has been a pleasure to stay in touch with her. And so I'm excited to bring her to the Pink House. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk to Cindy Ferguson. Cindy, tell us, what do you have going on? Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And it's so good to see you. I'm so happy to be here. Welcome everybody and happy Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That's really big, huge. I just got to get that out there, especially in light of that today, the month that we're in. So not too much. I'm just, really excited to be here. I've got some things working. I'm started my own coaching business, and yeah, I'm excited about that. We've been talking about that for a while. So I'm a systems and productivity coach. And so I've got that. And then I went ahead and started my podcast called The Brave Pivot. And it's really around women who are looking after. I always tell people, I want to help you build a business after the kids, corporate, and chaos. So
I like that. That should be your motto on a t-shirt. I like that. That's really
I
nice.
think I'm going to probably trademark that. Yeah, I really think that we, as women, we have so much to give after, we've given so many years, to raising our children, our beautiful children, and working, in corporate environments. And in some cases, like we talked about, some of us are caregivers. I'm a caregiver now for my mother. And of course, I was a caregiver for my father, who we'll probably touch on and talk about a little bit today, as we're talking about cancer and some of those, diseases and caregivers. But yeah, so, we wear so many hats, and I just kind of feel like, we're not finished in midlife. There's so much to give. We have so much more to offer as women. And the other part of that is we also have so much to offer for women, by women, to women, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
I'm looking to build a huge community about that. And of course, I'm a Latina, so that's really important, that I give back in my community as well. And, be an example for other women, in our communities to do better, be better, and show them that, somebody else is doing it. We're doing it. It might be messy and we're making progress, but, we're
But we're
doing it
doing
and
it
we're moving
right.
forward. Exactly.
And I will say this from the moment that Cindy and I were introduced to one another, you have that go give personality, that penchant to just lift people up. Because even I can remember some of the conversations that we had early on in the program that we were in, and you were very encouraging, and so that's what it is, being able to step outside of yourself to help somebody else. And so that came through then. And we didn't even have a long time together, but even in that short period, that's what came through strong about your personality, that you're in that position wanting to lift people up and to help people. Now, let me ask you this question. Um, what challenges have you faced in deciding on getting into your podcast or what have you? What are some of the challenges that you had to face in order to get it off the ground?
Well, I think one of the things that I was challenged with, and I think most people who are really kind of trying to make that pivot, if you will,
Hmm.
is that there's so much information out there, and trying to figure out which lane is my lane and which lane I
Mm,
actually, works for me.
exactly.
So I think that, I think we struggle with that just as individuals and as women all together. But again, from also a different perspective is technology. There are so many different technologies. There's so much equipment. There's so many different options for software. So it's really, it's not only is it trying to, from an emotional business growth standpoint, but also from a technological standpoint, there's just so many choices out there. And,
Hmm.
obviously, putting together a business where you're having to, differentiate yourself, if you will, right? Because
Okay.
there's so many choices. So I think that's something both from a professional standpoint as an entrepreneur, but it also from a technical standpoint as far as how to go ahead and set things up from a technological standpoint that actually
Okay.
will, support your business.
Okay. So now in doing that and getting your blueprint, so to speak, laying things out or what have you, having to also be a caregiver, what challenges did you have there? Did you feel like what did you do to help pour back into you because you had to do so much for your dad, let's say at that time, and now for your mom? What is it that you're doing to do self care for Cindy to help you keep being motivated to go forward?
Oh my goodness. You know, really taking time to have self-care. I'm into my faith, and that is really digging deep into my faith, and I use prayer, meditation.
Hmm.
I've always said this. I mean, you got to put the mask on first to yourself.
Hmm.
You really do. Otherwise, you have nothing to give to anybody. You don't have anything to give to our community. You don't have, I don't, wouldn't have anything to give to my mom, my siblings, my family, and the like. So really, it's for me, having that mindset and cultivating and making sure that I am always taking care of my mental well-being first and foremost, and that's paramount in my life, and then physically as well. So it's kind of the
Okay.
trifecta of mental, physical, and then spiritual. So it's
Right.
all three of those elements that and things that I actually make and have in my life as a center, and that I live intentionally through those three pillars, if you will.
Okay. That's great. Is there any like one saying or motto that you keep when you feel like you're hitting a wall sometimes, that when you go back to this thought that you heard or this nugget that you heard that keeps giving you that extra jump to get over that next hurdle?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the models I live by is you're going to have to you'll have to do things that you've never done before in order to get the things you've never had.
Oh wow, I
And I
like
think
that.
I've kind of botched that a little bit, but it just isn't,
No, but I
these
get the point exactly.
yeah,
I really do.
it's really,
Yeah.
you're going to have to be stepping up and getting out of your comfort zone in order to get on the other side of that and then receive the gifts of that. And that's
Right.
really important because it's true, you really need to, do some of the things that you've never had to do, i.e., technology, right? Figuring
Right.
out which microphone I'm going to use for the podcast or whatever, right?
Right.
Which,
Right.
what streaming system are we going to use? Those kind of things. And really, put yourself out there. And then, of course, also having the faith and putting yourself out there and putting, your content out there and hopes
Mhm.
that you're just putting stuff out there that'll stick and resonate with someone so that that you're making a difference in their life in one way or the other. It's just being in service, and that's what you're trying to, that's what you're doing is, when you're tired and you're not feeling like doing whatever and you don't want to write that outline or you don't want to schedule
Right.
that meeting, or you don't want to go to that professional meeting or that networking event, you think about, well, you're not here for you. You're here for them, your community, the people who are counting on you, the people that you're serving to make things better and to be an example for. That's what I
Right.
think.
Right.
And that's what
And
I pull
so,
from.
I'm sorry, say that again.
And that's what I pull from. They're my inspiration.
Right. That's good. That's good. So, let me ask you this question. Was there any time that you thought when you were outlaying this plan for yourself, your next, that you thought maybe I just can't do this, or not at this point, or did you just always have the tenacity to come with me? I'm going to keep moving forward.
I think just by being, I'll just go ahead and say, with my Latin spirit, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
Latin, as I mentioned that, we're tenacious people, and I'm a woman. So, a lot of, you know how we are, you can throw things at us and we just keep moving, we just rise above it. We're like, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep moving. And I
Right.
think that's just it. You pull from that, as my best friend says, you have some intestinal fortitude. You have a great capacity for intestinal fortitude. And you do, especially when you've gone through something so profound as a disease like cancer. Either you've gone through it and somebody who's lived it and you've been there for them in that capacity, or you've gone through it yourself, that's such a very profound disease to have that journey, if you're
Yeah.
doing it from a loving standpoint, taking care of someone like I did for my dad, to being there for a girlfriend who's going through it or whatever, or still going through it. Cause it's just like I don't know, way it's like it's always there and you're
Yeah.
always thinking about it, right? Just like,
Yeah.
and so it's prevalent in your mind. And so, I understand and I know what that feels like. And, it gives you an awareness and it gives you an appreciation and it gives you permission to be intentional about how you spend your time, what you're doing, and how you're going about, being the best version of yourself for yourself and others.
So aside from this segment here, what are some maybe recently in the past or upcoming collaborations maybe that you have in the works that you want to do in order to further your podcast and your other concerns that you got coming up?
Well, I think so for me, it would just continuously, obviously putting my content out, having guests on my podcast, me doing guest spots on other people's podcasts, other opportunities such as these, and putting myself out there, and continuously moving forward and doing some networking events as well. So as
Mhm.
much as I can, I do some local events as well. And anytime I get an opportunity, to do something and share what we love and what we do and how we can do, be a part of something bigger than ourselves, I'm usually up for it. So I'm
Right.
excited because, obviously with the world of COVID, thank goodness, even for this meeting, we don't have
I
to be in the
know.
same room.
Yeah.
But, you can, like you said, you can build lasting relationships, and that's just a win, that, how you shared, my participation level and how you, by the way, were a light too for me. You were just like, you can do this, you can hang in there. And it was, bi-directional. And, I love that we can make these friendships over the internet or
Yeah.
whatever have you, as I like to say, over the fiber optics. And you can build these lasting relationships. And I'm excited because just recently I saw someone that downloaded my podcast from the Philippines. I'm like,
Oh,
wow,
wow.
someone listened to my podcast all the way from the Philippines. That's pretty exciting, you
Well,
know.
you know what? I will piggyback on what you just said because I'm in several breast cancer survivor groups on Facebook, and I'll never forget one of the pivotal conversations that I had with a woman. I was texting her. She had talked about this was new. She had just got the diagnosis, so all of this information was coming at her, and she was just in a panic. And so I was trying to help her to one, take a deep breath, calm down, and
Mhm.
then don't look at the whole big picture. Take it one moment at a time so that you could focus or what have you. And so I was saying to her, I said, you know, I was telling her that I have a website, a YouTube channel, and I put the link in there. And she was like, oh, she is so good. I really like her. She didn't realize that I was the she was talking about. And I didn't realize it at first. And then when it dawned on me, and I was like, oh, I'm Lenny, because that's what I use my nickname to. And she was like, oh my goodness, I listen to your stuff all the time. And it was just very enlightening because it really touched my heart because it was like an actual person that is absorbing that content and telling me it made her feel better because of what she's going through, what have you. So you just never know who is embracing that content. And I analyze medical records in my day job. And one of the records that I analyze, a physician prescribed to the patient two things: YouTube and exercise, like chair exercises and things like that in the house. And the point he was making is that this person was dealing with long term COVID. So they had been isolated so long from other contact that the point he was making is you might be the only contact somebody is having on the outside world on the video screen. So, and when I read that, I thought, wow, this content really is necessary because it might be what you're saying in your podcast that might be the thing this person who can't connect with anybody else needs to hear because you're putting that content out. And so it was very eye-opening. It was enlightening to me to motivate me to say, I'm going to keep striving to improve my content and to be more consistent with it, because that example with that woman, it was enough to let me know somebody, I got at least 146 people that's watching it. So, and you just never know when it's going to be the thing to help somebody get over the next hurdle that they're dealing with in their struggle.
And you asked earlier, like you said, exactly, first of all, let me just recognize that the work that you do and what you share with the world in your journey, I mean, it's phenomenal because it touches people at their core.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure, just like it's not every day that you're going to feel like champion yourself to get this done and you're like,
Exactly.
what do you pull from to get you there? It's that
Yeah.
intestinal fortitude, right? And
Yeah.
it's knowing that person on the other end who might need to hear it. Because we're so much more alike as women
Yep.
and as peers than people even recognize.
Yep.
And someone's
Exactly.
going through this, like there is, like we talked about before we got on, there are so many personal struggles that we don't know. It might look great on the outside, but we
Hmm.
don't know what somebody's private journey is. It costs nothing to be kind. It really doesn't.
Exactly.
And the return on investment is tenfold and then some. It
Yeah.
costs nothing to be kind. So do some, let's do something kind for someone. And when I'm trying to pull, go ahead.
And that's what I've always said, Cindy, to throughout my whole life. People have always said to me, "How do you maintain such a positive attitude, or what have you?" And I tell people all the time, I always got a project going on, because if I have a project, I'm working on something for somebody else. I'm not sitting here dwelling and focusing on those things that may not have been so good or kind to me, on those things that just didn't work out the way I wanted them to. You know what I mean? Because you're thinking about somebody else. And whenever I'm exposed to something new, if it's a medium that, like, okay, the latest thing is I'm into diamond dot painting. Have you heard of that? Have you discovered that yet? So
No.
it's a more modern take on painting by numbers. Oh my goodness, Cindy, they are the most beautiful canvases that you can create with these little crystals that they call diamonds, and you place them on the canvas. And I mean, gorgeous. I'll have to show you the most recent one that I just did. But whenever I do that, then I try to expose a whole bunch of other women to it. So then I have this little club. We meet once a month on Zoom like this, and we diamond dot paint together in our own homes. If you want a glass of wine, if you want a coffee, and we just chit chat and connect that way. And so I'm always thinking of creativity as a means and method to heal, because it's helped me all my life. And so I'm always
100%.
trying to promote that it doesn't have to be a lot, it doesn't have to cost a lot, but these little things that can help you mentally and emotionally heal, and in turn you can help somebody else. Yeah. And so
Oh,
I'm just always looking for ways to do that.
that's some great advice, really. I mean, I think that, when I started getting down, just like anybody else, right? When I see my mom or she's going through a struggle and it's hard, because you love your mom and you want her to be well, but my mom's almost 80, like she's 79 and she's getting
Wow.
tired. Yeah, she's getting
Yeah.
tired. And, you know, and I think about her living by herself sometimes, or whatever. She needs that. Thank God we're all very close, and she lives
Right.
very close to my brothers, my siblings. They live like
Hmm.
a penny's throw away, thank God. My sister works she could walk to my mom's house. That's how
Oh,
close she
what
is.
great.
And thank God they're all three of them are nurses. So they get,
Oh,
she's got like the best of the best care. Here I'm the
hmm.
project manager. you know, I'm a completely different field when we're,
Right.
like corporate project
We're
management.
similar in that way. My sister is a nurse, but she moved to Florida, and in September, mom and I, when everything shut down, so we hadn't seen her in almost 3 years. So we went down to where she lives in Florida, and it was good to see her, so my mom could see. And so yeah, and she's a nurse, and I went the opposite direction too. I'm like, yeah, okay. So
Yeah,
I
that's
I
not my
look at
shit. That's
medical
not my
records.
shit. We're
Yeah.
good. No, but it really is, like you said, keeping busy. And and I think about like those people that need who are listening or who have commented on they'll send you a note and they're like, I heard you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And your friends, they're sweet and they download or whatever and they pay attention or they subscribe. And it's just so sweet that you get that support system. But that community really is my North Star. And just like
Yeah,
your community is your North Star, and you just,
yeah,
you just share that with us. And this sweet thing that you do with having everybody come in and do this, the little crystals, if you will, and doing and painting by
yeah.
crystal,
Right.
and being busy and teaching them to do something different and getting their minds off of things. Because even as regular, like people who, we struggle with just,
Oh
everyday
yeah.
anxieties, and,
Yes. I
and
used
I'm like you, I love your advice. You're like, take a breath. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I try to do. I literally try to take a breath and I'm
yeah.
trying, when we're future pacing,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and that
I
makes
remember
sense,
I remember
know?
a girlfriend telling me, maybe I want to say maybe about 6 months ago, and she was thinking back to when in my youth, because I'm 58 now, and so she was thinking back, and we've been friends for years, years, and she was saying to me, she said, "Girl, I can remember how you just used to be all over the map," and it's like when young people have things happen to them, sometimes when you see what looks to you like they're acting out or whatever, it's really a cry for help or something. You really don't know what's beyond it. And that is what led me to exploring creativity, DIY things, poetry, dramatic reading, just anything that was an expressive outlet, and animal therapy. For so many people, having a pet, because if you feel like you're in that position where you haven't been loved or haven't been loved properly, having that relationship with a pet can really foster in you um, nurturing and loving, and so it's all of those type of things that can play in making you a more whole person,
Mhm.
and that's what I told her. I said it takes work, you got to work at it, but you just don't give up. You just don't, okay, you get knocked down, girl, dust your knees off and get up again, and that's what you do. You keep, but as I say, pushing and pulling just to get to the
Yeah,
next step, and
you
you
do.
can do it with joy. Even though we've gone through a lot of things, you can have a measure of joy if you just deal with your mindset about certain things.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, that's exactly right. 100%. And that's something I actually was in the middle of, putting together, some tips for being, to champion your mind, to have a champion mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we really have to be our own best advocate, be your own best
Yes.
friend. Because
Yes.
Mel Robbins says, nobody's coming for you, nobody's saving you, and it's so true.
Yeah,
Like there's
it is.
nobody coming, and rightful and understandably and rightfully so. So you really have, I mean, it took me years to figure that out, that I had to be my own best advocate, my own champion. I have to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what's a good fit for me, what doesn't fit. you know how do I, being a caregiver, I'm going to bring it back
Right.
to that. How do I know when I need a breath?
Right.
How do I know when I need to stop? Oh, I can't go this weekend. How do because you just don't know, and obviously then that scarcity mindset kicks in very easily because there's preservation when you're dealing with a disease such as cancer. You
Mm-hmm.
first thing your brain goes into is preservation mode. I got to save every day, I've got to save every minute, I've got to save every energy, whatever, and then scare, but you're operating from a place of lack if you're coming from scarcity. So you have to regroup and recenter and like, listen, and this is not how it needs to go. You do not need to be operating from this. You are coming, if you're coming from a place of lack, you're not serving your mom, your sisters, your dad,
Right.
your community well, so those are the things that we need to make sure that we keep on the forefront of our minds, is making sure that we're healthy and that we're
Right.
taking care of ourselves, and and making sure that we're putting those boundaries in that are safe for ourselves as well, and that includes your mental health first and foremost. And that's what I strongly believe that as well.
Well, that was excellent because that actually answered the question that I was going to ask you. That as a caregiver, what nugget would you share with caregivers out there that they would need to do? And that summed it up right there because you have to, like you said, put the mask on yourself first. Otherwise, you're going to be spent and you're not going to be able to help anyone.
Absolutely.
And actually create more havoc than not if you don't take care of yourself in order to assist. So now, as
100.
an go ahead, as
No,
an
100%.
entrepreneur,
Mhm.
what nugget would you share with young women, maybe catching this, and what would be a nugget or two that you would share for young women starting out that wanted to be entrepreneurs? What would you share?
Oh my goodness. There are so many ways that you could better yourself. And as if I was starting as a young person, even working corporate, you know, I would
Hmm.
tell them, listen, think about doing something as a side hustle. Have a
Hmm.
side hustle. You need an outlet. I love how you use the example of, you're painting, I'm going to call it painting by crystals. I hope I'm saying that right. You
Diamond
know,
dot. It's called diamond dot.
Diamond dots. Okay.
Hmm.
Everybody needs something to kind of be their anchor, right?
Hmm.
And for women, I think it's so important to build your financial success and build wealth at a very young age. And
Hmm.
know what that looks and feels like for you. And how could that look and feel like for you constructively and on a long-term strategy, right? And
Right.
part of that is really building, I would tell a young person trying to start out as an entrepreneur is, build a business while you're young so that you can have maybe a opportunity to have more options in your life. So
Right.
you can create freedom. Had I might have done that back years ago, I wouldn't have been competing with my corporate job to try to spend time with my dad. So
Right.
I didn't, I saved all my sick days back then. I saved all my, vacation days because I just didn't know when I needed to use them for him. Not to
Right.
say or take away from the team that I worked with at the time. They were lovely. They were very, they allowed me to work, had hybrid type model way back then,
Right.
in order to, be able to, be with my dad when I needed to. And I'm grateful for those people in my life back then. But had I had build wealth and maybe build options for myself. And that's why
Hmm.
I think that's what I would like to tell young people. And as women, we need to create more options for ourselves. Don't be
Yeah.
so reliant on a W 2 all solely by itself.
Yeah.
That's a blessing. It is, it's a blessing to do that. But I also think, in order to create more freedom for yourself, because I think that's the ultimate goal,
Right.
I think women and young women, it would behoove them to start their own side hustle.
Yeah. Because I know when we first met, when I first was seeking out a program like the one we met in, it was because I had been furloughed from my job, and so I needed a next, and so sometimes we don't think about it until we're forced to think about it, because I definitely recognize that had I had some of the mindsets that I've now adopted and entertained as a younger woman, oh, I think things would be a lot different um, for me as in a financial way. But you live and learn, and it's never too late to begin. But yeah, and so we would hope that maybe more young women would just be motivated early on and not because there's a necessity pushing them to have to do it. Because I had to do it. I
Absolutely.
had to figure out, okay, how
Yep.
can I make some money? Like you said, a side hustle. What can I do to help in the interim until this thing straightens itself out? Because what it taught me though, at any given time, things could go that way again. So you got to be able to figure out another path in order to have a stream of income coming into the home. So yeah, but like I said, life lessons, you learn what you learn from the experiences that you have, and I'm grateful for it, because if not for that, I wouldn't be here right now. And so for
100%.
that, I'm grateful. Yeah.
And like you said, Lenny, it's never too late.
Yeah.
It's never too late. I mean, things can happen. And, I think that, yeah, again, we're tenacious human beings as women, and we can juggle so many hats, and we can do so many things. And, I also think that it helps you also with your W-2 to have a side hustle because you're building
Yeah,
skill sets that are transferable to your W-2. You're doing your day
exactly.
job, you know,
Exactly.
especially if you maybe are looking for speaking engagements or if you're looking to doing some writing on the side. These are all skills that would transfer very well into your corporate environment or your W-2 experience,
Yeah.
so, think like you said, never too late. And I too wish I don't wish I would have stayed. Things happen, like you said. Your journey is what it is, and it's just like mine. And I know where I am now,
Yeah.
right? And we're making
Exactly.
differences now. And that's what I try not to look back and say, I wish I did this or I wish I did something else. Because for me, I'm like, I'm like, okay, well, it's done, move forward.
Right.
Where are you going next? What are
Now.
you doing
Yeah.
next? Or I like to ask myself, like when things get a little, like you just don't even know where to go, what your next step is. And I'm like, Cindy, what's the most right thing you can do for you or your business to right now at
Mhm.
this moment? What's that
Yeah.
look like? Because and then I bring in absolutely no judgment because there's no right or wrong. There's no
Right.
right or wrong answer, but there is a wrong action, and that's
Yeah.
no action.
Right. And see, and that's an integral piece to being a woman in business. You have to have those conversations, even if it's just with yourself. And you got to be
100%.
open, honest, and transparent with yourself because those are the conversations that will help you steer in the trajectory where you need to go for your business. If not, it's like you're working blind, if you don't have those conversations. And then, as you stated earlier when you first started talking, to build those relationships where you can then engage other like-minded women, even if your career path is different, you're like-minded because you're entrepreneurs, you're thinking about the next and how to conquer this obstacle or reach that goal and set that objective. And so, like you said, I'm just always looking for opportunities where I can rub shoulders and have these type of conversations because I'm always walking away better than I was before I had the conversation. And that's what I
Likewise.
love. Yeah, that's what I love about them because it's an education that you just can't get anywhere, and that's from somebody else's experience. And so I really, really love these conversations. And it does open a door. Like I just went to like 2 Sundays ago, I went to this program called the Pink Out 2022, and it was just women entrepreneurs exchanging their business cards, building relationships. And girl, it was phenomenal. It was mind blowing to me. And from that, the woman that hosted it, she had me on her program the other day. I mean, and so it's like, it's like that domino effect. And so anytime that those opportunities come up where you can participate and put you in a learning space like that, it's wonderful. It's
Oh,
just wonderful.
100%. And then you had asked me earlier, is what other collaborations do I have in store for my business? And that's one of the things I'm going to have is actually women who are, who actually are taking that brave pivot, right?
Hmm.
What does that look like in your life? It could look like changing a job. It could look like starting your own business. It could look like I'm opening up a 503 CB, 503,
Right, right.
and what does that look? What does your brave pivot look like? And my hope is that I will be able to interview those women, and they'll come on my podcast so that
Hmm.
they can inspire other women to do the same like themselves. Because I
Hmm.
do feel that we do see ourselves in each other,
Yep.
and I do believe we attract those that are like you said, like-minded, like ourselves.
Hmm. Yep.
And that's what I want to feature. I want to feature women who are taking that bold, brave leap into something that's unfamiliar.
Hmm.
And then as entrepreneurs, that's funny. The one thing that those entrepreneurial journeys are so different from my background. I can use aspects of my project management experience, and obviously for systems and all the productivity, which I love because that's what I pull from. But there is no roadmap for putting
Right.
together your own business. You know, and
Yeah.
it's nice when you can pull from your internal resources and your network to share that information. because my
Right.
hope is that I can help somebody else build their own business and set them
Right.
up for success, because I want to move that forward. I want to move that mission forward to help other women learn to, have that learn to, build their own business and have that entrepreneurial experience that they can share, and also share with their own daughters too. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
have any daughters, but if I did, I mean, but I have some beautiful nieces, and hopefully they can see my example, hey, listen, you can do this too.
Yeah.
My TT went a different, she went a different route, and this is what she decided to do. And hopefully by that example, I can teach somebody else that it's attainable, and that they too, and then they can see it in themselves, that they too can do this as well.
Well, I can definitely say for all of us out here in the pink house that you have definitely done that. Your conversation has definitely motivated us to keep going for more. It's motivated us to reach out, reach across the table to the next woman there, and together, holding hands, you can help each other along. And so that conversation has done that. One of the tenets that I abide by when it comes to the pink house is that we grow strong women. That's the motto of the pink house. We grow like you have a greenhouse with vegetation, with the right temperature. You're going to have the best plants, the best vegetables. And so it's the same thing with the pink house, with the right elements, the right people speaking, the right engagement. Women will come here and benefit and grow strong, and will not have to feel less than because of any experience that they've had in their lives. And so for that, we thank you for sharing your experience with us today. It's been fantastic. We loved it, and it's very engaging, and we would want you to come back to the pink house anytime you want to come back and talk to the audience. This has been a pleasure to have you on the pink house, Cindy, and really help us to appreciate just some different things we didn't think about when it comes to being an entrepreneur, when it comes to what you have to do for yourself as a caregiver. Two things I will take away is, one, got to put that mask on me first, and just really take the time to invest in your own self-care, especially mentally, especially in the time we live in, because so many people are in mental crisis because of the isolation and the different things from the pandemic. So that was a beautiful expression to point out, to definitely take care of our mental health. And so this has been a great pink conversation. One of my favorites, I will tell you now, definitely. And so do you have any last words that you want to say to the Pink House audience, Cindy?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Lenny, for inviting me. I am so, so glad that our friendship extended. Obviously, all those months past that program that we took together. It's nice that, we still hit each other up on Messenger. We're together here today. And I'm just so glad that I've got you in my pink house.
Exactly.
And I'm looking forward to continue to support you. And I would love to
Thank
have
you.
you on my show one day. So I would definitely love to have the laws of reciprocity, and have that exchange with you, because you're doing wonderful things. This is your great pivot.
Thank you.
What you're doing here with the Pink House, and all of your all of your subscribers and all of the people that you touch doing these interviews, and all the information that you share and that you procure, in the hopes that it's going to make a difference in someone else's life, and that it hopefully would ease the little bit of burden or stress that they're going through. I thank you for that. I'm looking forward to championing you through this. And if I can ever be of assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. But I do look forward to seeing you again, and I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, my friend. Take care and stay safe. All
You too.
right. Bye from
Bye
the Pink
now.
House. Bye bye.